just more generalities on porcine epidemic diarrhea. Do you see this lovely virus here on the left? It's called a coronavirus because it's got a crown. And if you're a virologist, it looks very pretty. If you're not, you think, oh. But this is what causes porcine epidemic diarrhea, and it also causes another pig virus that causes very similar symptoms, which is transmissible gastroenteritis virus. It's very difficult to differentiate the two, yeah, but you can do it in the lab. Okay, why again? Why do we worry about PED in the Caribbean? The virus has been historically widespread in Europe and Asia, but new strains are now active in China since 2012. And in 2013, this virus came very rapidly and spread very rapidly in the USA for the first time. And since this PED came to the USA in 2013, roughly 8 million pigs have been lost in 30 states. It's really a major disease, causing a lot of problems, not just in the States, because it's now in Canada as well, and it's now in the Dominican Republic. So you can see this. You can see here the states that are infected in red, and you can see how quickly it spreads. And because it's a coronavirus, and many of you know about coronaviruses, you know about SARS, yeah, the human one, SARS. They're variable viruses as well. They change a lot. So they're very difficult to keep up to date with. And this is the same with PED. There are different strains that exist with limited cross-protection between them. Makes control quite challenging, yeah? So this is very quickly where it spread. It went from Mexico, Peru, Taiwan, Dominican Republic. It went to Canada, and Colombia. So it's around us in the Caribbean. It's around us, and it's a virus that we need to be aware of. Very short incubation period. What does that mean? If you've got a short incubation period, it means it'll spread very, very, very quickly, and that's what it does. It spreads very quickly. Massive amounts of virus in the feces, so it spreads extremely quickly in naive pigs. Especially the young suckling pigs are really susceptible, in some cases causing up to 100% mortality. As the pigs get older, they tend to survive more. They sometimes need some supportive help. Even the adults get diarrhea, but they usually survive. There are many differential diagnoses that you think of, but the most important one is TGE, which is very similar. But there are other ones, rotaviruses that you know about. Rotaviruses are ubiquitous. They infect all humans, all different types of rotaviruses, and they usually cause diarrhea. But there's also some bacterial infections and some parasite infections, which you have to take into consideration. As regards diagnosis, there's lots and lots of virus in the feces, so that's where you go. You collect feces, and then you can isolate the virus, or you can actually do PCR on the feces. And nowadays, we were talking about these with foot and mouth disease. There are nice little lateral flow devices, tests, where you can look between TGE and PED and rotavirus, and you can tell which one you have. So it's quite relatively easy to diagnose. And very briefly, response. The resolution of clinical signs occurs. Again, we've heard this before, when maternal immunity is established and piglets are protected by colostrum. Any virus where you're getting problems, most of the problems in suckling piglets, get them to have colostrum from their mums, and then they won't get it. Yeah? So you're looking at making sure the pregnant pigs, the pregnant sows, are infected or vaccinated, and then they will pass on the protection to their piglets. That's key to the control. So you can do that by vaccination, or you can do that by deliberate exposure. You're actually getting them to feedback or feed them fecal material. It infects them, and you infect them at a time, so they have high levels of colostral antibodies onto their offspring. As regards the disease management, you maintain herd immunity through repeated and thorough feedback and/or vaccination. Very intensive hygiene and internal biosecurity of farrowing rooms, because that's where it's going to be. And here we say again, all the sort of things you know about, to give advice on, about stopping viruses from transmitting between pigs. What are the challenges the main challenges to the control process is there are still unknowns to this virus. We don't know the length of immunity post-infection still. Immunity depends on the infected strain, but remember there are different strains out there and there might not be cross-protection across all of them. Single feedbacks, single outbreaks of, feedbacks in your pigs doesn't always work. Sometimes you need to consider doing feedback more than once, and sometimes you need to consider combining feedback with vaccination. And that's what they did in Canada. They combined feedback with vaccination because, of course, feedback perpetuates the virus in the environment because you're giving dirty material full of virus. So control is a balance of getting enough immunity and at the same time reducing the environmental load of the virus. My last slide. What about this big outbreak in North America? What have we learned? We hear about China again. The virus came from China. We don't really know how it came from China, but it came from China. Initial spread to Canada from the US was most likely through contaminated spray-dried plasma protein fed to weaned pigs, yeah? Okay? Spread amongst farm in the region is through pig movements and contaminated fomites.